All right. Good evening, everyone. Dave Wilson, the Ringer Hire Show. Hey, it's great to be back tonight, and I got a great guest here, Amy Stone. How you doing, Amy?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. Hey, everybody. We got a great show tonight. We're going to be talking about how you can be that best recruiter, and we're going to talk about onboarding. But you know the drill. We'll be right back after this. Come on. What do you think for $35? That was it. $35.
Sold.
Yeah, I know, right? I had this. I tell everybody it's always funny because I get all pumped up with that thing. During COVID, I knew him for like 3 years overseas on that Fever app, and he kept making the. I was new, he was new. We didn't understand each other, but
Right.
once we got to know each other after like 2 years, I saw that video that he was doing. I was like, oh, what I've geared towards staffing. So I wrote every freaking word down that drove me crazy, anything, and you saw it, and I wrote it down. Within 1 hour's time, he had that made for me. Within 1 hour. Yeah.
That is. I mean, I was really engaged and watching that. That was great.
Yeah, it makes you want to fight or something like that. You're right. You're coming out of the guest, but I always tell people that story because there again, we got to know each other, and then
Right.
that's all it took. And if I reach out to him now, he'll be like, he comes up with these ideas. Again, we don't understand a word. We have to use translations, but I love it. So tonight, everybody, hey, listen, it's great to have Amy on the show. I've known Amy for a while, and we've worked together. And I want to thank you for coming on. She's in Rome, PA. Don't even ask me where that freaking thing is because I'm in Pennsylvania too. And when she said that, I was like, all right. So all I know is you're 106 miles away from me. So, Amy, why don't you take this time, introduce yourself and what you're doing now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I started a new company, Stone Solutions Consulting, and I'm passionate about recruiting and leadership development. And I think with that combined with my operations experience has really
Yeah.
been allowed me to take this and take this to a different level of really having that team building and team engagement set up. So I decided to start my own company.
Love it. And how did, when, I know you, but your background, but how important was that for what you're doing now? Because I saw that you talk about leadership, project management, strategic thinking.
Mhm.
And I look at that and I was like, wow, we talked about, how consultants used to come in. I told you at our places. And how important has your background been for that?
Absolutely critical for me. My background is airline operations, and I was over 60 stations, had 400 employees, and 35 station managers, 2 regional managers in U.S. and Canada. So only have an operations background and keeping everything going. And then I decided to go into a different position under HR.
Right.
Did the leadership development, recruiting, and safety and training. So that being in operations for as long as I was, and then under the umbrella of HR, has really allowed me to look at things through a different lens and truly understand what the legal aspects of it they
Right.
are, and then also just ethical. But it's really helped and enhanced my ability to see things on different levels because of how difficult operations is. Uh, and then
Yeah, I'm thinking already the pain points,
yeah, yeah,
and I guess going into that, that's got to really help them because that's what you're there to do. I mean, and with that background, especially I look at the word project management, I've learned from this show is that just means so many different things.
right.
Project management on what?
Right.
Every single thing where you work, you could break that down to every area. So what do? Go into the company, smaller, bigger too, and just talk to them, see if you can find those pain points with
Yep.
hiring processes and even the process of logistics, right?
Right. So it's really a matter of just listening. So I just let people know what I do, what I'm about, and then I listen, and then I take notes. And then, as they are talking and I'm taking notes, I'll take back and look at everything that I'm able to offer. And then I'll come back with things that I think will work and the why behind it. And
Right.
really the two things that I hear a lot are delegation and succession planning, and that was never really on my radar before. But now that I've heard that time and time again, I realize just how important that is. Because for me, that's just something that you do,
Right.
just part of my day to day. I don't think about it; I just do. And it's interesting that there are some that just don't even have that on their radar.
And that's what, I can imagine smaller companies really have a need for that. They're probably always saying like, wow, because they don't have all those resources, that you're skilled at to come in there and speak about HR, speak about, the pain points and to have somebody in there that's got to be so, for a smaller company, even mid-sized company that doesn't have that available to them.
Well, it's not, you don't even know where to start. So when you have something that's so massive and you
Right.
don't even know what end of the spectrum you're on, it gets too overwhelming and then you don't even do anything with it. And I think it's absolutely critical to your success. I mean, you need to have proper delegation, art of delegation, and
Right.
then also succession planning. And of course, there's a lot of other things that are in that, but those are the two key components that will either make or break a company, in my opinion.
For your opinion. And then, like you said, trying to get somebody in there. And I just feel it's a great, I don't know, great service for yourself to be able to get into that because you have that background. If you didn't have the background, people think it's easy and it's not. Oh, I just go into a company, this is wrong or this. Now you got to know what you're doing. I mean, it's the same thing like we're going to talk about being a great recruiter. What makes a good recruiter? And when you do the research, I look at, high volume recruiting, professional services, and the way it says here, it says about speed and efficiency and high volume. Candidates want answers quickly. Top recruiters, responding within hours, not days. Versus professional services. There's two different kind of, being a recruiter that you offer. Now you do medical also now, right? Too at the hospital, right?
Yep, physician recruiting. Yep.
Wow, that had to be such a change. But I always say, you've had that. Excuse me. You've had that background, so to go from even logistics to medical, it has to be a challenge too, I'm sure.
It's all about knowing your audience. You know what each component needs, and having worked in the airlines and warehouse, and now in the hospital setting, like you got to know your audience, and you have to know what the needs are, and then you have to know what the end goal is, and then work your way backwards. And that's how I've
For
approached
that.
everything: is truly understanding what the scope is, knowing and the time frame too,
Right.
be able to work backwards from that. And that's been another point of being successful.
And especially for recruiting. I mean, I enjoy recruiting because all the time I've been doing it, you change someone's life. I mean, it's
Right.
simple. It doesn't matter if it's entry level. It doesn't matter if it's middle class here too. It's all the same. You're changing someone's life, and you got to have that. When you talked about listening, God, I think communication is one of the biggest things that you can do on onboarding. I mean, how important do you think it's great to have a good onboarding experience?
It's critical for on many levels, and really hiring the right people. Don't hire a
Right.
bomb. Make sure you're hiring the right people and have a process in which you do that. And then really having a good onboarding setup, and having created a process that
Right.
for managers coming in, and making sure each department had specific items to talk to them about. And so it's not going to be a 1 day onboarding. It's going to be probably a month or more. And the key items have to be reached, and understanding that fire hose, learning from the fire hose. It's really
Right.
about just introducing it, and then being able to allow them to know where to go find the information, and then know who to ask when they, have an idea about something.
Right.
But it's really important to make sure that, when you onboard somebody, that they understand what your business is about, the culture, and then all of the day-to-day aspect, and what is important in their job, and how to get that done, and to who to go to.
on
Really important.
that. I have somebody here that wrote a book, so we're going to read it. All right. I don't know your name, and I apologize because it just says LinkedIn user. So if you want to put your name, that's fine. It says the hiring process is absolutely broken. It feels like speed dating in a haunted house. Whoa. Okay. You dress up so nice, rehearse your lines, show your best side, and then get ghosted by an algorithm. If a recruiter responds, it's to ask you to re-upload your resume already uploaded 3 times. Your qualifications vanish into black hole, not a perfect match. Your cover letter gets ignored, and your resume has become a 12-page emotional support document. Wow, you write so well here. Woo! This is more therapy than a professional summary. At this point, I'm not even applying for jobs. I'm applying for closure, emotional stability, and maybe a little hope with benefits. But seriously, great live. You nailed it. I felt seen, validated, and just the right amount attacked. Keep saying what we're all thinking. Wow.
I love it.
Wow. You got to, I'm like, I think that's our whole show.
The haunted house. I think that's dating. Yeah. Speed dating in the haunted house.
But,
perfect.
I know when they say ghosted by an algorithm, and that was one of the points I wanted to talk about tonight is, it starts with the job description. Let's face it. That's where it all starts, that job description right there. And I've been called out on it through my career because if, again, like in professional services, if you'll get called out on that because they're gonna be like, wait a minute, that says this in the job description, or they didn't read it, that damn quick apply and all that stuff like that. They don't read the whole thing. I'm not sure when it says about ghosted by an algorithm, more so as if it's the recruiter, or what they're doing there.
So Boeing is one perfect example, because I tried to apply for Boeing. I got an interview, but it was definitely very difficult. And they have an ATS system that was done all by algorithm. And it goes back to how Indeed is set up. You've got to look at those 6 keywords. You really have to make sure that you are reading, not perusing, reading that job description. And understanding those keywords, and you want to make sure that those keywords are placed throughout your resume as well. So if there's something very specific in that job description, you want to have that on your resume. So when the ATS gets your resume, it's going to look for those keywords. And if enough of those keywords, it's going to then get passed to a true recruiter. And that recruiter can put eyes on it to then move it to the next level. So,
and I tell people, listen, I mean, we talked about AI before the show started, and I get it. You gotta bring some human into that, and I've utilized AI, but then I've always, and I like how you said it before, you got to make it yourself. You can't just put down everything AI because everybody's going to know that's not you writing that, or this isn't like that. So I use it as a tool. That's how I use it. And I saw there's so many different softwares. I get excited for that stuff because, wow, they were saying you take your job description, copy it in, put your resume, copy it in, and then it's going to give you a lot. Compare it. And this software, if it wasn't for I have so many $39.95 a year ones that I'm like, all right, I can see that because if some people, listen, yourself, and we said the job description, but that second part is the most important, is that resume. I know people don't want to pay to get it done. I mean, they'll say, whoa, it's $100. Dude, are you kidding me? $100 to have someone professional, hear me out, professional, do it will help you if they know about those keywords. Like you said, they got to know that.
Right. And the other thing that's important, and I'll just speak for myself, is that I don't read resumes, I peruse them. And if I have 100 resumes that I'm looking at, I want to get down to the ones that are in my yes. So I've learned throughout the time that you have a yes pile and you have a no pile. There's no maybe pile. So 2 different piles. And I'm eager to get to my yes pile so then I can start working on that part of it.
That one.
getting to that yes pile means you've got to go through a ton of resumes. And if the
Sure.
resume is not written well, no pile. I had a resume that was 5 pages long and I put it in the no pile. My recruiter came back to me and she said, Amy, you've got to look at this. Why did you put her in the no pile? Because of the resume. She's like, you got to talk to her. So she talked me into bringing her in and interviewing her, and I hired her because she was that good. And I told her, I said, your resume was that bad, and it went into the no pile.
But yeah,
So
but when you say that, isn't there when like I've done in the past, sir, would you coach? Would you have coached that person if you seen those skills in there? Would you have had them come in like coach them and say like, have you ever said to somebody, listen, your resume needs some serious work. You got some great skills, but it's nothing there. You got a few bullet points. You have this, and I'm thinking you're in that range of say like a 3-figure range, and you got come on. You got to have some kind of professionalism on that, a story, whether what you've done, something to make that recruiter catch your eyes, like you said, that yes and no. And if you
right.
don't have it proper, you go to that no file.
Easy. You can go to the no pile very easily, and you want to get to the yes pile, and then you want to get to the pile of being called in for an interview. So it's all in segments, and being able to put your resume is extremely important. And if you don't get it professionally done, find somebody
It
who
does, yeah.
can do it. But the resume will make or break your.
Everybody knows a recruiter online on LinkedIn. Come on, I get so many people that message me, Dave, can you look at this? And I'll take 5 minutes. I don't care.
Yeah.
If I'm at home and I'm working
Mhm.
on LinkedIn anyway, I'll be like, all right, let me see it. And I'm
Mhm.
just very honest. And then some of the response I get back, yeah, but I've had it done this way. I've had it done that way. Somebody says not to do this. I go, listen, I can only give you some advice. I can't tell you that this is
Mhm.
going to get you a job, but you're missing a lot of that stuff in there. You're missing, project management, just that word. What
Mhm.
is it? If you just put a lot of people put project management, but they don't. I don't know. You should say on that resume what you're doing for project management. At least something, not
Right.
just that word. I get it
Mhm.
because you need the word, but at the same time, you want to try to look at that and see if your skills are on there because that's got to be as important also. You
Right.
know, all the software, all that's I'm sure. Like if you have the SAPs, if you have your ADPs, you have all that kind of software that you feel that should be on that resume as well.
Right. Again, it's you get that one first opportunity, and that's your resume.
That's it. And that's why I tell people, and I get it because when you're on LinkedIn and you're looking for a job and you see 1,000 people applied already, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's
If that's
overwhelming.
true, how does that recruiter for a job like that go through 1,000, people?
Right. And really knowing reaching out to people that you've worked with
Right.
and staying in
Yeah.
contact, and that's good on many levels.
Right.
But it's really it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I think that that's important. That just keep your connections.
As she goes, let me see if I think we hit that one. Let me make sure I hit one more thing. Let's see. Let's see. And you get ghosted by an or if a recruiter does not respond to ask to re-upload. All right. When it comes to listen, when I think we all know when it comes to ghosting, I try to make sure I get back with every candidate. I really do. I kept telling myself, Dave, because I don't want to get called out on LinkedIn. They're going to come on here, but Dave, I've sent you my resume 10,000 times. I'm like, shoot. It does. I have forgotten in the past, but I do like the kind of people that follow up with me. I really
Mhm.
do, because it puts me in that spot. You know,
Right.
it's like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry. Hey, I was off. You make up excuses, but it isn't an excuse. But the ghosting of there, I think some don't want to have that conversation. They listen. If you didn't get the job, just be honest. Tell them right off the bat.
Right.
I would not make somebody wait and just making it go on and on. And I see why they get frustrated because they want to know why.
Right. Now you're talking after they've interviewed or
Yeah,
have
like after they interviewed anything, even after they've interviewed.
that is when I hear that happens,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. Literally makes no sense. Always have loop closure. That's just
Yeah.
be decent and loop closure.
Yep. And it gives them something when you say it. I've had people come back and argue back to me, and I'm like, all right, how am I going to get out of this? Nicely, because I want that person to, I get their frustration because, I mean, let's face it, you're out of work for 6, 8 months. Those rejections, they keep coming and coming. And I always feel that you got to learn from each one. And
Right.
before you know it, in 6 months, you're like an ace at interview, and you're like, all right, I got it down. Bring it on, girl. Bring it on. But for a recruiter, I do agree. I mean, you got to be able to get back with them. I remember before where I work now and before all this, Robert Half was a staffing company, and I like them for this reason. When you apply there, this is a great shout out for them. When you apply there, right? I've never had a company. I am not kidding you, Amy. From the start till the day I applied, it was after hours at Recruiter. I didn't know they got paid for certain things, but still, every single step, 2, 3 part interview. I'm not kidding you. Within an hour after that interview, I was called. This girl called me. How'd you make out? How'd you do? I'm
Wow.
like, why you call me again? Okay, well, I'm going to set you up for the next one. Then call me. Hey, just remind you got 2 days. You got that. I was like, all the way through every single part. I didn't get the job. I was disappointed, but my point there was, man, the communication from the beginning to the end. I couldn't have asked for better.
And that's amazing and not something I've ever heard.
Yeah, but they're great. They do it. I think their culture of that. I think that's what they do. Just to make sure whether it's over communication. I was just like, wow, this girl's on it. And
Right.
follow up email. How'd you make out? Answer questions. Like, all right, I'll go there. So, and then I think I got one more thing on her right here. Let's see. Qualification of black hole, not a perfect match. We got that. Oh my God, that's so great. Even applying for jobs, I applied for Kosher. Wow, I got to give her credit for that. I don't even know how to answer all that. But good luck on all that. We got another person here. I don't know why tonight, everybody. It says LinkedIn user. I don't see your name for some strange reason. So I don't know what's going on there. But we'll go back to the recruiting part. Is even how important do you feel recruiters should know what they're recruiting for?
So I found it interesting when I was coming from operations into under the umbrella of HR, that we had recruiters that had never been in the field in the airline, so not
Right.
even been at the station to know what was happening. And they're trying to recruit and bring people in, and they were way off. So I went to the manager and I said, I need to take you to a station. You need to see what we do so you
Right.
know what we're hiring for. And so after she spent a day at a station and truly understood what we did on a day in, a day out, the recruiting, they were bringing in a different caliber of people.
Right.
So you actually have to have a little bit different skill set than what they were bringing into us. And it really worked out. Also created a document, familiarization. So an HR person that has no idea what we do, they have to go and watch and learn and be part of. So you can't hire for something that you know nothing about. And
Right.
so
That's
it's
what I mean. Yeah.
very important. I mean, to me, again, that's a just what you do. And it was interesting that wasn't applied. So it just made it happen.
And I say the same thing for when you do when you're doing the onboarding the same way. If you don't understand everything, this is where the training comes in of your culture of your company, all different things on onboarding. Like when you onboard a recruiter, they should know exactly what they do everywhere. If they're going to be doing at different sites or anywhere, I
Right.
just think I'd rather talk to somebody that knows what they're doing, because on the professional side versus entry level, and you'll get some questions entry level, but they'll call you out on it,
Mhm.
and when you start making mistakes, they look at that as a candidate.
Well, you're really the one of the first people that they see in the company, and I think that you represent the company, and you really need to make sure that you're doing that in the right manner.
That you can get it, and that's what's nice about it. But it comes down to, it says response teams, streamlined systems, um, personalized approach. I look at that. It says how, let's see, career consultation, create recruiters, deep dive into a candidate's goals, and get to know their resume. And when I read that over and over and over, there's a story in each person's resume. If you really look at it,
Mhm.
you can figure out what they're looking for. But again, as a recruiter, you got to be able to know how to sell that.
Mhm.
As an example, I'll give you an example, like military. Um, I've had so many when they come out of the military, say they're a captain or an officer, or even they've been in there for 15 years, any recruiter knows when you look at the resume, it's hard to understand. Now I know it because I've been in the military, my family,
Mhm.
and myself. So it's the language. It's there for me. I've had
Mhm.
to sometimes say, "Listen, man, I need you to change. This is way too strong. They're not going to understand." But my point there is, if I feel comfortable with that person, I need to tell a story. I need to get that person in front of the hiring manager. And how do you do it?
Mhm. And I think knowing what the hiring manager truly wants,
Right.
um, and making them see what they probably don't see at that point,
And
and break it down. So really simplify it. It's kind of, I call it going back to the basics. I remember having a VP that wanted to poo-poo hiring of another regional vice president, and after I talked to him, like, I mean, I think you really need to talk to him. He's like,
right.
no. I'm like, no, I really think you need to. So after I pressed that, he did talk to him, and yet he did end up hiring, and he did make a comment like he never would have interviewed him had I not pushed it. But
Right.
he was there for years and years, and so it's really understanding, who your people are,
Right.
understanding the candidate and what they can offer, and then also understanding, what the hiring manager is looking for. And you might have to bridge that gap a little bit, but it's you just have to have an understanding. And
And
I'll,
that's what I think too. And especially, I'll always remember how one DB told me, he said, Dave, we can teach the job. We can't teach the leadership if they're looking for a leader, right? A leadership. So if somebody has that, I look at teachers, for example. I've had a lot of different on the shows. And I'm like, wow, you know, in training, okay, think about it. Wow, teachers, what do? They teach. You're looking for a trainer, right? And then you get a teacher that applies, and sometimes they'll say, well, why are they getting out of that? Why would they want to go to this over here? That's where I think, as a recruiter, as you're talking to that person, a good recruiter, you can deep dive into them, see what they're talking about, and then see if they're going to be a fit for there. But use those. I'm big on transferable skills. I wish that some of the recruiters would look at that more. You can transfer this skill. Like, I would like to take your skill set, this person's skill set, and add it into, what I mean? Just create
Mhm.
that perfect person. But it's not like that. But I still believe that you need to be able to, okay, in a leadership role. Wow, look at this. The guy was in the military for 20 years. I mean, come on. It's
Mhm.
not he's had thousands of people that he's in charge of, even smaller groups. And to take that, but to have that hiring manager take a chance on what you're sending.
Yeah, and I think also understanding the strengths and weaknesses
Yeah.
of yourself, and truly be, honest about that. So when you're weak in something, just, own it. And then
Okay.
also truly understand the strengths and weakness of your team,
Right.
and then compile all of that. And then when you are interviewing, you can quickly identify that this person has strengths in areas where, some of us are weak. And I
Right.
think just, truly just having a better and good understanding of your team, of yourself, and what the end mission is really going to help set the foundation for that.
And that helps too. I always would say that helps. Here, you come in here. You see what I have to do. Come on here. You try to tell this person that you said the wrong thing, and you're like, oh shoot, why did I say that? But I just think the recruiters can be human also. You
Right.
don't you can laugh, you can have fun with a candidate, you can just try to get to know them. Listen, if it's off hours and they're texting, you can listen. I'll respond to that text because I know what it's like. I
Right.
know what it's like to where all of a sudden you get interviewed. I try not to interview people on a Friday because it's always like they're all weekend. They're just waiting. All right, Monday, here comes no emails. And it's like Tuesday, no emails. You're like, oh my God. And you got like 10, 15 people reaching out to you. And as a recruiter, everybody knows what I mean. You got to try to, I don't know, amuse everybody, calm
Right.
them down. And, do you find yourself doing that?
Well, yeah, and you've got to make sure that there's certain expectations for the hiring manager
Right.
to get back to you, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to make that decision. And yes, they're busy, everybody's busy, but being able to be very clear, like, I need to know by 3 o'clock, even though you need to know it by 4. But
Right.
really give yourself that wiggle room, and just because people want answers, and
Yeah.
I think it's you got to juggle that and balance that, for all of the other hiring managers and everybody else that has a say in that.
For that. Do you think it's easier to when you want to sell, like I've had some good candidates where you're like, you know what, you've interviewed, you're like, then they say no, and I get it. But I just feel sometimes it's easier to talk to the person, that hiring manager, face to face than it is with an email on why. Like I can explain to you better if I said, Amy, you were looking for this type of person, but
Mhm.
hear me out. I would be like, Amy, listen, here's this person. Listen, this is why I feel would be a good fit. I know it seems like it on the resume, but you know, they're not, if they're not used to looking at resumes all the time, that's not part of their job. They've never done it. So I
Right.
just feel sometimes for a recruiter, there's nothing wrong with going face to face versus even the email.
Yeah,
But
and
tell them.
you're going to get more information when you have the face to face. And I think email is fine for some communication. Unfortunately, it's used way too much.
Yep.
But having that one on one, you see the body language, the tone is there.
Right.
Really get into the bottom line. And sometimes, and I'm remembering right now, there was somebody that I wanted to bring on for a general manager role, and we had to bring on somebody else who should not have even been considered for an interview for that role, got the job because of it was what the client wanted, the customer wanted. And so I was like, oh, I mean, okay. I mean, if that's what you're going to do, but
Right.
had we not had that conversation and him to peel back that layer and provide a little bit more detail, I mean, it literally made no sense why he went with this other person. And then, of course, within less than like 5 months,
I try
person.
not to. I always want to say like, damn it. You always have your favorites. You know, you got your three or
Yeah,
four. I'm like, this is the one I want. And then when they pick somebody else, sometimes in the career, I'm always like, all right, why? What did I see here? What didn't they see that I didn't see? And there's when I believe that's where you really need to talk to that hiring manager. Sit down with that person.
mhm,
Tell me exactly what you're looking for, because as a recruiter, if you don't have that information, anybody can, just like you said, all right, yes, because he has this, no. But if you really want to fight for that candidate, or even a couple of them, you need to know exactly. It'll save you a lot of time, I've learned, to get what are you looking for here. I mean, I've given you this A, B, and C. I've given you that, and you're still not picking the person. I had one tough one in my career, and no matter what I did, so I finally was frustrated because I said, what am I doing wrong here? You know, this is behind door number 1, 2, 3. What do you want to do? I don't
right.
know what else you're looking for. Well, I want somebody more that's in a training area. And I'm like, you have it all here. And I was just like, but as a recruiter, again, they're just some of the fun things that you got to try to figure out,
Yeah. No,
you
it's
know, to do that. I don't know. It just drives me crazy. And I think everybody does that. Um, we talked about the beginning, as a recruiter going into, I wanted to hit about reviews about onboarding, because I see a lot of that also on LinkedIn. I've been seeing, and I don't I don't know. I wouldn't go on LinkedIn and just dog a company. That's just not me. I wouldn't. I think as a professional, listen, whether you like that company or not, if something went wrong on the onboarding, that's
mhm,
what there's reviews for,
right.
And I look at some of the reviews, and you'll see on there, and I always say we always know people don't really put great reviews on if it's great. They put it on when it's negative. But if you have the same thing, if somebody's saying, let's just say, example, saying a long time to get hired, or the long process or the onboarding process, and if it's said over and over and over again, there is some kind of something there. And that's where, I mean, how important do you believe that is? I mean, when somebody does that, reviews, I mean, I don't know what
Well,
to
I
say to
think
them.
having going back to saying something negative
Right.
on a
On
social
LinkedIn.
media
Yeah.
platform,
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a sense of frustration,
Right.
uh, and just I'm very quiet most of the time, and airing dirty laundry period is not ideal, especially not on social media.
Right.
Uh, so definitely stay away from that.
Yeah.
Um, but as a whole, I think HR and I think the leaders of the company need to sit back and look at that and listen and look at the reviews, because I mean the devil's in the details. It's there.
Yeah.
So listen, pay attention to it. And I think that's extremely important. And if it's not acted upon, then I think that tells you everything you need to know about the culture.
Yep.
And I think that then just you were diverted, and luckily you're not going with that company. So it's not rejection, it's redirection.
I've never put a review on for like where I've worked or anything. I don't know. It's just not me. I just think, like you said, you're professional about it. I can see their names. This is what's weird. Hi, Alex. How you doing? We got Alex, Diego, Davis. How you doing, Diego? All right. Now I can see their names on my phone,
All
but
right.
I don't see their names up here. Let's see. After 10 years of recruiting internal staff, we finally developed a tool to screen possible candidates to get to pass the first stage. I can't even imagine how much software there is available for that.
I'd like to learn more about that.
Yeah, 10 years of recruiting internal, developed a tool, and then here we go. Let's see. I got to see who this person is. This is driving me crazy. Oh, Diego. Well, he's the CEO of the staffing company, the medical.
All right.
There we go. All right, for sales, we do personality typing and check social media presence. Yeah, I mean, that people don't realize that, and that is a good sub part there, because people go onto your LinkedIn, they go onto your social media, and they check it out. So I mean, in that, I don't put anything on there. I can't.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think it's a good thing to do. For sales, we do personally typing, check social media presence. Okay. All right.
And I like that idea. Can you put that back up?
Yeah.
So, really doing the personality. I mean, there's different, things that you can take for that. But if you're hiring for an admin,
Right.
and you're going to be doing a lot of typing, you really want to make sure that they are true to that.
Right.
So when you're hiring, and I've done this different times, if I know that doing a pivot table and doing different things with VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, all of that, I'm going to give them a little test to see if they say they can do it. Show me.
Show 'em.
So we don't go down that path of, you find out after they're hired that they really don't know that much. That's just a turnover cost for
Right.
me, and not so just being proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, that makes final sense. Here, let's see. Hire slow, fire fast mentally. I get that, hire slow, fire fast mentally. But a lot of people, when we talk about, when you're going into onboarding, how important it is, I think being honest, you got to be honest and clear communication, because sometimes it could take, like you were saying before, I think you were saying about 3 to 4 weeks, the process. Well, I think you need to tell that person, you need to let them know honestly, because if you know it's going to take a month, I mean, there's only one way to do it, and you just got to say it. I tell recruiters, you got to have that conversation, because, well, what if they don't want to wait a month? Well, this is what it is.
Right.
If it can go faster, we could. But if there's a process, like you said with medical, wow, that's a long time before they start a job. It's not like you were saying, close to almost sometimes 3 months, because by the time you get everything all done.
Well, and I think everybody wants to know where they are in the process. So for me, I'm all about knowing what the end result is,
Right.
and then working backwards from that. So if you know that it's going to take really a month, and it could take on a good day to take a month, on a bad day to take 3 months, make sure they know what is needed.
Right.
So, they can start working on it in advance, and make sure that, it's very clear, as you said, clear communication, transparency, and let people be proactive. And
Right.
if the time frame is not met, then that burden is not on your shoulders. It should be, placed on that new
On
hire.
them.
Right. So, I mean, just making sure that everybody knows if there's, let's say, 50 steps in total,
Right.
and how long each is going to take, then, it's all about transparency. I mean, I am all about
Okay.
transparency, and I want loop closure. So never letting things hang out there, and follow up on a reasonable time, and don't bombard them. So you've got to find that happy medium where you're not bugging them every day,
Right.
but you're not waiting 2 weeks to do a follow up on things that are needed.
That's the thing. And, how important do you think on onboarding is to reach out to see how everybody's doing? How, as a recruiter, following up with someone, like even in their process and in a company's process of that whole process, because it says it should be from 0 to 90, from start, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, something. And how important do you feel that has to be? Because if you don't know how they're doing, like if you got people leaving or, and this is in all type of industries. Wow. I mean,
Mhm.
entry level logistics, we know that that's just high turnover. That's just no matter where you go, anywhere, I don't care. You're not going to get away from it. Now, on the
Mhm.
professional service side, I didn't realize, first of all, the high cost it is after 90 days to 6 months of what you just lost, not just from the recruiting cost, but you know what I mean, from all the trainings and all the different things. Now you got to retrain somebody over. How important do you think that is?
So I'm going to answer your question a little bit differently because I'm really I'm big on this. Is knowing your new hire cost,
Right,
which then could be mentioned on your turnover cost. So if you have know what your turnover rate is as well. So what's the average and what is it now? What is the
right,
3-year look back? And being able to truly identify like why are you having this turnover? And then start peeling back the layer on that to find out where is that happening. Is it just after recruiting? Was it bad
right,
recruiting? Was the training insufficient? Do you have bad management? So there's a lot of different reasons on why. Is the culture just that bad? So there's a lot of reasons, and it's up to management and HR to understand what those are, and then
right,
work to fix them and stop being reactive. Like stop being reactive, just be proactive
right.
and stay on
I
top
like
of
how you
that.
say that. I like how you've said that a couple of times. I like how you say it because that is so true. Especially when you know the problems. But I say again, it just comes down to where you want that smooth transition because I've had it to where the longer you make somebody wait, you push them off by not answering a question, being transparent. Not like that. Do it in the beginning. Say it if you know it. And if you don't understand a question that they have, I don't have any problems with saying to somebody, saying, "Hey, that's a great question. Let me find
Mhm.
out for you." Because I've had that. I'm like, "Whoa, I don't even know." I'm like, "Wow, I need to find that." That's a good thing because that makes me not know, kind of like I know what I'm talking about, but there's always one or two things that can pop up, you know.
Right. What I've found too is that when somebody asks a question you don't know, um, I will respond and say, I received this. I will get back to you in however, whatever that
Right,
time frame is. And then I'll make sure that I get back to them. What I've found that a lot of people do is they don't know the answer. So they're going to go find it, but they haven't gotten back to the candidate to let
right.
them know that, that you're working on it. So all it is literally just responding, saying it's well received, and I
Okay.
will get back to you on 2 weeks, a day, whatever that is. But let them know you at least receive it and you're working on it.
It
Don't.
is, and I just think it's important. I mean, it's just the knowledge and like you say, transparent, communicate. If I heard that word so many times, communication. I used to when I was the branch manager of this one, the recruiters would always tell me, "Dave, you don't listen. You don't listen." And, it comes down. I'm like, "All right." So I always told everybody, "All right, give me 5 minutes. I'm listening. I'm listening. All right, then I'll make something." But I get it. It's a tough thing, and I can't. Wow, we are done. 45 minutes already.
Wow,
Yeah, see how quick it goes. But
man.
it, the subject getting, like I said, onboarding, how important it is to just really make it smooth and make it a good. So, because you want the referrals, to me, I'm sorry, referrals are big, and I don't care what field. Man, you get that person because I feel if you refer somebody, they come, they're going to stay because why would you tell them if it was a negative place? That's the way I look at it.
Right.
I wouldn't say to somebody, "Oh, don't come to my company here." Then why am I there? It's like, "Oh, don't come here. You don't want to come here." I'd be like, "Damn," but you want to get those referrals, especially when you go from one company to another. And why not, boy? You know that person's skill set. Get them in there.
Right.
But it comes down to just a smooth, just nice and smooth. It's supposed to go,
Mhm.
for up to 90 days. But I want to thank you because I didn't even get to. I always show, look, all my trees and I didn't even get to probably over half of them tonight.
Oh
Well,
my goodness.
we were supposed to talk about, but I want to give you this chance again. Amy, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to have you back on because I got to finish all this. I didn't do all this for nothing. But again, tell us what you do, where you're located, and that way we can call it a day after this.
All right. So Rome, Pennsylvania. If you don't know where it is, you got to look it up.
Yeah, right.
160 miles from Allentown.
Ooh, yeah.
Stone Solutions Consulting. It's geared towards leadership development and conflict management and coaching and counseling and team building and delegation, succession planning. There's a host of things that I offer, and passionate about it, and would love to help and talk to anybody.
Good. And I'm going to give you a personal recommendation. Let me tell you, if you're looking for somebody that's going to work 100 hours a week for you for free, right? 100 hours a week for free. But no, seriously, you're going to get Amy, or you're going to get somebody that's going to really work for you. And that comes down to where you just get to know the person. But you would work a lot of hours. I don't think I'll ever. That's why I used to say, well, she's still there. She's still going thousands of hours a week, right? But that has also, I like your background. And I'm sure, like you said, everything that you've done really helps. You know what that person's pain is. When you do talk about project management and leadership, you've been there, you know it. So that's got to be so big, to find customers, to have you come in like that, because you got all that experience.
Yes.
So all right, so I'm going to show this video and I'm going to talk to you afterwards. Again, everybody, we'll be back next Wednesday. And Amy, thank you so much for coming on. And I'm going to talk to you right after this.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.